development in a more proper way, let us try to see the general principles of growth and development. The first principle is that development is a product of the interaction. Development is a process resulting from a constant flux or interchange of energy within an organism and the environment in which the organism resides. Hereditary factors or the forces inherent in the genetic constitution of the individual and the environmental forces influence the development of the organism, and it is very difficult to distinguish the contribution either of the two forces. Like if we try to make make out that which force is responsible more, it will be very difficult. So an individual basically is a byproduct of the constant interaction with its environment. So the heredity and the environment, both of these things basically constitute the and they actually work together in due course of making the development in the human being's personality or in the personality of any individual. According to the second principle, which says that development follows an orderly sequence. Individuals differ in rate of growth and development, and the development follows an orderly sequence in all the individuals and shows high degree of similarity in the order in which various developmental aspects appear. So psychologists and different developmental educationists or psychologists have reported several directional trends in the development. What are these trends? Let us try to see one by one. The first trend is called as the cephalocaudal type of development. Here, the development is considered to be started from the head and it proceeds towards the toe, from head to toe or to the heel. The next direction is considered to be the proximo-digital direction or way in which the development happens. So here the development starts from the center line or the from the center, and it moves towards the periphery of the body to the outer parts, basically from center to the periphery. So it starts from the center and then it percolates towards the outer sides or outer parts of the body, which are more distant from the center. So this is the proximo-digital. Then we have got the third way or the third pattern, which is the locomotory or locomotion. In the locomotion type or directionality of development, we can find that locomotion develops in a sequence in all the infants of different cultures of the world. The sequence is first the child starts some sort of creeping, and then crawling starts, and then the child like starts to stand, and then maybe the walking process will start. So this sequence is somehow found in all the human babies throughout the world. So this is the second principle, which talks about the development when the development is considered to be following an orderly sequence. Then the third principle says that development is a continuous process. Here, it is said that development begins from the time of conception in the womb of the mother and it continues till maturity. But it should be kept into consideration that it is not always smooth and gradual. They also say that the process of development goes on throughout the life. But in case of any type of illness or in case of any type of issues with the health issues, we can find that the physical growth and the psychological functioning can be having some sort of negative impacts also. We can find that as the height and the weight is increased, we can find the child having some sort of greater vocabulary, and that can be seen more in the case of the preschoolers. And once the child gains some more age, then the child actually suddenly tries to solve the problems and more abilities can be appeared can be seen to appear in the adolescents and the growing children. But in case of any sort of illness or any physical issues, we can also find that the growth and the development is hampered. So this continuous process is always to be considered, but those type of hindrances are also there in few of the cases. Then the next principle says that the process of growth and development is bilateral to unilateral. It has got a trend from bilateral to unilateral. So the newborn is essentially a symmetrical organism anatomically, physiologically, and functionally. This functional symmetry is revealed in the early motor development. The infants up to the age of around 2.5 years use both the hands with equal ease. The hand preference starts like using only the right hand for eating and for doing different tasks, or maybe the other hand, the left hand. This type of things, the hand preference and all, starts after the age of 2.5. Basically it is the outcome of the culture and the upbringing. So you can find many children using both the hands, and maybe if a child is using the left hand for eating, you can find many mothers and parents stopping him or her to do so and asking him or her to use the right hand. And these type of things actually can be seen depending on the cultural milieu. Then the next principle says that different aspects of development are interrelated. So different aspects of development are interrelated and interdependent. A child's early social behavior is interrelated with his or her physical development. If the child is somehow having any sort of handicapsy or disability, then the social behavior of this child is going to be found to be retarded in few of the cases. But there is also a possibility that the child is included and there is no any kind of retardation found in the disabled child. But in few of the cases we can find that the retardation is seen in many of the social behaviors. The motor development of walking has positive effect on the intellectual development of children. And in this way, we see that different types of developments are interdependent and they help each other. So if you are seeing a child who is not speaking, the words, the vocabulary is not coming out, you can see, even you can observe that maybe the other motor abilities are also not working properly. So if you try to improve the motor functionalities, automatically you can find improvement in the speaking ability of the child. The next is the development is an individualized process. All the individuals develop in their own way. Every individual is an unique entity. Each child has his or her own rate of physical, mental, emotional, and social development. If we observe the 6-year-old children, we can find great differences in their height, their weight, and their social and emotional, and also the readiness of their learning ability. Even at different ages, children have different rates of development. The rate of growth is very high in infancy, and then it slows down. And it continues throughout the life of this human being. The development actually goes on throughout the life, but growth, it may it actually stops once the maturity is attained. So growth may occur by various fits and the starts, um, which mean that the rate of growth changes at different stages of the child's development. You can find a child growing, increase in height in a span of 1 year, that you like before 1 year, when once you have seen the child was not very long, but after 1 year, once you saw the child, you have seen that there was a substantial increase in the height of this child. So you can find different type of growth patterns in unique uh, capacities in different children. The next principle says that development is cumulative. Why this principle? Basically, development is a cumulative process, and certain changes impress the observer with their dynamic suddenness. But actually, these changes do not emerge all of a sudden. The child's first word, the first step, all are the results of the cumulative progress as the child has continuously been preparing for these functions. So these are not sudden changes or sudden activities. These are going on, like accumulating, and then all of a sudden you can find that first the child was babbling only and making all those noises, and then one day he speaks a proper word. So, or even in case of walking without without any problem, without asking for help. So these things actually are gradual. They are the child is working on all these abilities from a time, and then for some day you can find the activity happening in a very proper way, and you can say that it's a sudden change, but actually it is not sudden. So each change is the culmination of the prior growth and the experiences. Then the next principle is that development proceeds from general to the specific. In all types of developments, we find the principle of mass differentiation and integration. The world at the time of birth is a big, buzzing, blooming confusion for the child. Out of mass and differentiated behavior emergence, more differentiated, refined behavior, and the goal directed responses basically will emerge. So we can take any development and find that this principle applies. This principle of general to specific actually applies. And if we take the example of language development of the child, we can say that this language development begins from the birth when the child cries as a mass response. And out of this mass response, differentiation starts, and gradually the child acquires some little bit of vocabulary, and then by the time this vocabulary increases and many words are added, and consequently the skill of communication develops. Next principle is the principle of rate of development differs in male and female children. There is a difference in the growth rate of boys and girls. Girls mature earlier in comparison to boys. This is a very well known fact. Girls are taller and heavier than boys during the pre adolescence, but by the end of adolescence, boys actually surpass this height and weight and all. And then by the end of the adolescence, we can find that boys are more grown in height, and they become at times heavier also than the girls. Then the next principle says that development is a spiral process. It is not a linear process, but it is spiral. The child does not proceed straight on the path of development with some sort of constant and steady pace. Basically, what happens that this child makes advancement during a particular period, but takes rest in the following period to consolidate the development. In advancing further, and then basically he actually tries to uh, uh, go a little back, and then back and forth, and this type of movement actually goes on. A little bit of increase is happening, and we can find a spiral of growth happening here when we are seeing a child growing up. So this moving forward with a little back and forth happens, and like a spiral, which is actually smaller in the base and bigger at the apex, you can find same type of structure happening when you try to make a diagrammatic representation of the growth of the child. Let us now see what exactly are the stages of growth and development.